Do you mean to say I couldn't write about them because I wasn't doing that? I've been in a rickshaw. It wasn't hard to write this book, let's put it this way. I'm going to let you read the book, and then you tell me if you think it wasn't authentic or it wasn't. I mean, there have been criticisms of it. The voice is too educated. There's a reserve. She doesn't talk like a slum person. She sounds too educated. Well, what does a slum person talk like? I've spoken to people from slums who are more eloquent than I am. They speak better Urdu than I do, for sure. So, my experience of what a slum is probably going to be a little different from yours. Obviously, I didn't live in a slum. That's a given. And you shouldn't expect me to write as if I had grown up in a slum. You should expect to see a story from me that hopefully convinces you enough that a slum person could be telling this story, or this could have happened to somebody from a slum. It doesn't necessarily have to be the slum person who actually wrote the novel. That's not going to happen. Yes?
But why a Christian girl, not a Muslim?
Why not?
I mean, a Muslim people do live in slum.
Haven't we had enough Muslim perspectives? I mean, why not let me ask you, why not a Christian girl? Why does it have to be a Muslim? And perhaps a Christian or a non-Muslim is better suited to look at the problems from an outsider's point of view, at what is going wrong with some of the way Muslims are treating Christians. That was the theme of the book. That's what I wanted to take up.
And plenty of Christians in the West are very happy to take on a Muslim persona. We think only of Martin Amis and Ian McEwan and all these sad people.
John Updike.
Oh, John Updike.
Yeah.
Now Sebastian Faulks, unfortunately.
I mean, they think they know what we think, so and what is this us and them anyway? It's a person's story. That she as Christian happens to be a part of the story, but it shouldn't take away from the fact that I as another human being can have sympathy or compassion or have some kind of understanding of what, and in the end, this is an imagining of what somebody, this is not a newspaper account. It's not an autobiography. It's an imagining, so you have to keep that in mind. Please. Right. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm just going to travel back to your earlier book, The 786 Cyber Cafe. I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, thank you.
And I just want to know that was a very different theme. I don't think people bring that up in the relationship between the brothers and all that, how it panned out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have inspiration for it? Did you meet anybody who kind of provoked you to write something?
I worked in an IT newspaper office where nobody spoke English. And that means basically that they were from a very different social class than me. So it was an education for me to see how, and there was a girl that worked in the office there. And she was such a firecracker. My God, I thought, well, she'll be shy. She was just, with it. And she felt she was an equal. She talked to all the guys. She was cool. She was my inspiration for Nadia in the book. And, working in that office and seeing how people, I was amazed to see that they were doing things with computers and they had their own language, like instead of delete, they would say uradiasko and things like that. It's like, wow, this is a whole culture, but it's all IT and it's all happening in my city. Let's write a story about this. Thanks.
It's postmodern, more or less, isn't it?
I don't even know what postmodern means either. Please don't get academic on me. I'll make a fool of myself. So,
something about this novel,
the GSN.
which you haven't given yet, the GSN.
You talk about it. I don't want to talk
Tell
about
us a little bit about it.
It's a new book that I wrote. It's only been published in Italy at the moment. I'm still looking for an English language publisher. The original title of the book was Children of Sind, okay? And we changed that along the way. In Italy, it is The Boy Who Believed in Freedom. Thanks. And at the moment, we're going with the title, A Season for Martyrs. This is a story, it combines two very different trajectories. It's the story of Ali Sikandar, who is a young guy working for a news channel, a TV news channel. And he is asked to cover Benazir Bhutto's arrival in October 2007. So his story covers the 3 months between her arrival and then her death in December 2007. And interspersed with his story are chapters from Sindhi history, okay, starting all the way back with the legends of Zinda Pir and all these dudes that are sort of hanging around and protecting Karachi, Abdullah Shah Ghazi and all these kinds of people. And it goes through the history of Sindh, taking it through to the Raj days and the conquest of India by the British Empire, and then through to independence, the fight for independence, all told from the Sindhi history, basically, through independence, through the movement of the 70s with Bhutto, to his hanging, to Benazir's life. So what I tried to do was interweave these two very diverse threads, but they have a connecting point at the end of the story. And it's a little complicated, and more so in Italian, because I don't speak Italian. But I'm hoping that one day, inshallah, soon, we'll be able to see it in English.
Very soon. I hope there are some publishers in the audience, because I think, whoever you are, you're idiots not to pick this book up right away.
Gonna get me in trouble. Any more questions? I really appreciate you all coming out today. If you like, I can read something from the book, if you'd just like to hear a little bit. Or how about I just tell jokes? I'm going to read you just the beginning, a couple of pages. I want to say that the book there's a mysterious dedication at the beginning. That person is my sister. This book is dedicated to my sister. Okay, this is chapter 1 from the first part of the book called Slum. The book is divided into 2 parts, Slum and Mansion. So, the first time I saw a man injecting himself with heroin, I was 9 years old. Of course, at that age, I didn't know what heroin was. I hardly knew what syringes were or what injections were for. But my mind's eye took a photograph of it all anyway and stored the negatives somewhere deep inside to be taken out later at a time when my youthful brain had accumulated enough information and experience, had caught up enough with my surroundings to be able to understand the sights, sounds, smells, and sensations around me. I was coming home alone from school that day. Appa had asked me to stay late and help her clean the slates, and I did so with a scowl on my face. When I finished the job, I ran out of the school before she could even say goodbye to me. Swinging my braid over my shoulder, I like to do this 10 times an hour, its weight and thickness pleasing me greatly. I picked my way carefully across the stones. I didn't intend to end up in the filthy water which overflowed from the drains, stinking of urine and excrement and chemicals. The whole slum smelled like that anyway, and I didn't want it on my skin as well. And with the taps running dry again until Friday, I wouldn't be able to wash it off if I fell in. As I jumped, I pretended I was a giant flea, able to leap many miles into the sky with each jump and land perfectly on my target, with my feet not so much an inch out of place. My braid bobbed from side to side, and I hummed a little song as I cleared the last stone and made it to the dry land on the other side. I wondered what food I might find waiting for me at home. My mother cooked the way I attended school, as and when she felt like it. And my older sister often had to take over the responsibility of keeping us all fed. Still, I dreamed of hot, fresh dal with a steaming, puffy roti to go with it. My stomach squeaked expectantly at the thought. I turned the corner at the church, and that was when I saw him. A strange man clad in a filthy gray shalwar kameez whose folds were stiff with dirt and sweat. His black curly hair was coated with a film the same color as his clothes, and even from a few feet away, I could smell him, rank and odious like rotting garbage. He paid no attention to me, squatting on his haunches against the steel shutters of the church door, swaying back and forth so that the shutters banged and echoed with his movements. His left arm was extended out in front of him, and there was a black cord tied around his upper arm, which was as skinny as a kitten's leg. In his right hand, he clutched a dirty syringe, which was filled with a golden brown liquid I didn't recognize. An image flashed through my head of 3 or 4 men, just like this one, scrabbling through the garbage piles in front of the culinary dispensary. I had always thought they were looking for food. I knew now that I had been wrong. I watched as the flabby muscles in his arm bulged against the cord drawn tight around them. They seemed to pulse very slowly, matching the movement of his thumb on the plunger of the syringe, a slow downward squeeze. I couldn't tear my eyes away as the golden syrup disappeared slowly into his skin. He paused for a moment when it was done, then withdrew the needle and untied the cord. I held my breath, waiting for what would come next. Perhaps he would jump up and start to chase after me, then inject me with the same liquid he had just given himself. I tensed myself to run, but I had to wait until I saw what he would do next. The chase never came. As soon as he freed the cord around his arm, his head snapped back, and his eyes rolled all the way into the back of his head. He lost his balance and fell off his haunches, lying now against the shutters, which easily supported his skin and bone body. A wave of ecstasy passed across his face, transforming his features from the twisted grimace they'd held a moment ago into an expression of utter serenity, utter solitude. He seemed to have spun off into his own universe, and that universe was only large enough for him. I stood there, staring open-mouthed at the man. Now that he was lolling against the door, I was able to look at his face more closely. I could see that he wasn't one of us, not a Punjabi Christian. His face was dark, but his nose was wide and his lips thick. His eyebrows beetled above his deep-set, sunken eyes, but what fascinated me was his hair, curly and thick like the fuzz of some overgrown bush. I'd never seen hair like that on anyone before. If the circumstances had been different, I would have wanted to reach out and touch it, to wind my fingers around the curls and rub them on the back of my hand. Then suddenly he opened his eyes and fixed them right on mine. The great black pools startled me. His pupils, fully dilated, made me feel as if I was about to step into them and drown. I let out a little scream, but he didn't move. He could hardly lift his head or move his lips. I screamed again and turned tail, running as fast as I could to the safety of my house. My lungs felt as though they were on fire. My legs hurt with the effort of running so fast. My hair came loose from its neat braid and flapped gracelessly across my face. I left him far behind, that strange man, awash in the sea of his drug, and even when I knew I was safe, I still remembered the rush of fear in my throat when his eyes had looked up and seemed to swallow mine. I want to thank Amir Hussain and Claire Chambers, Dr. Claire Chambers, for being here today to speak. And thanks to all of you for coming. I really hope you enjoy the rest of the festival, and it's a fun experience for everybody. Thank you. Goodbye. Yes. Excuse me? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There is an announcement that Slum Child book is available at Liberty Bookstall and outside this hall as well. So this is the opportunity that you can purchase your books and get your copies signed with from its author, that is Ms. Bina Shah. Thank you.